Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video where in our previous one we told you about all the different factors that game developers have to consider when trying to find the right lobby for you. Today we're going to be looking a bit further into one of those factors and doing a little bit of a deep dive about how it works. SBMM. You've probably heard of it already. We know it as skill-based matchmaking, and it's where players are matched based on their skill to make sure the lobby is fair and competitive. It's been the tried and trusted method of matchmaking used by many developers over the years, but it's not perfect. It has its critics, but there are also a lot of positives to it too. Let's take a look at some of those. Gamers of all levels should get a competitive experience in every single game if SBMM is working correctly, because they're only going to be matched with players of a similar skill. It's also great for new players. If you're jumping onto a game for the first time, you're likely to be matched with other new players or players that are actually pretty poor to make sure that you don't get owned from the off, because if that happens, you're unlikely to want to play the game again. Highly skilled players only match with other highly skilled players, which creates real competition at the top of the ranking ladder as players battle it out to see who can really be considered the GOAT. And for games where your rank is visible, it becomes almost like a badge of honor and a source of pride and reputation. Bragging rights, if you want to call it that. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some downsides to SBMM. Longer wait times being one of them, which often happens at the very top of the competitive chain. Boy, for example, a former League of Legends pro player, he was streaming, he was ranked Grandmaster, and he was solo queuing. Just looking for a game, the matchmaking system was doing its thing. 303 minutes later, it was unable to find him a competitive and fair lobby, so he just abandoned his stream. Not great for engagement. Matches can also feel very much like more of the same, like a bit of a chore. If SBMM is working perfectly, every game is going to feel like a slog, because your KD is rarely going to stray too far from one, because you're playing against players of the same skill, and this means that you're often craving that one lobby every now and again where you can just go in and tear it up. Which brings us on to our next point, that SBMM is open to manipulation, and players are trying to find ways to get themselves into easier lobbies and tilt the odds in their favor. Obviously very important for content creators as they're looking to get those high kill gameplays to put on their YouTube channels. You know, many content creators have been accused of doing this, but we also see it in the form of Smurf accounts, reverse boosting, where players are committing in-game suicides trying to lower their MMR to get matched against easier players in the next game. Then we have server variation. You may find that you're playing on multiple different servers within your one gaming session. That's because when matchmaking is focusing purely on skill, connection quality sometimes has to take a bit of a back seat. On the screen now, you can see all of the CSGO servers. You can see they're spread all over the world. We know that CSGO uses SBMM heavily in its competitive playlist. Let's say I'm based in the UK and I get paired on a German server, which is fine. I'm against German players of a similar skill, but then other factors come in. For example, will they have an advantage because they're based in Germany and they're going to have a lower ping? Who knows? All of this has led to game developers thinking about how matchmaking can be made even better, which has led to a new phrase being coined, EOMM. It stands for Engagement Optimized Matchmaking. And the idea is in the name, the clue's in the name, is to keep you engaged with the game for as long as possible, whether that's hooking you back in after your previous game session as quickly as possible, or prolonging your current gaming session for as long as possible. Game developers are thinking of ways to achieve that. And that brings us on to something what we know as churn rate, which is when a player puts down the controller and stops playing the game for a certain period of time. It could be a day, a week, could be months, could be years in some cases. And gaming companies have been doing their research into things such as churn rate as part of this new EOMM model. You can see in this example in the table that players are almost twice as likely to quit and stop playing the game after 3 consecutive losses when you compare them to players that have had more mixed results. Hardly surprising. So how else can game companies keep us engaged in their game? It's very difficult for EOMM to be proved, but there is some speculation amongst people that they're using an algorithm similar to those on other social media websites to keep you engaged and keep you coming back for more. So the next thought is, how can a game that's available publicly, available to everybody, be so personalized? Well, while we're all playing the same game, we all play it very differently. Some of us run and gun, some of us like to hold back and use sniper and marksman rifles, and some of us, whether we like to admit it or not, camp. you're worried that the last point applies to you, then it probably does. But if the game developers are able to understand and learn how we play, they can also understand what we're more likely to buy. They understand what weapons we're likely to use. They understand what skins and cosmetics we like. And this leads them to being able to personalize the in-game offers that we see in the store. Have you ever wondered why sniper rifles are always on offer to you? That's because you use a sniper rifle 84% of the time. That last point may not be a concrete example, but you get my point with this. Another way that game developers might do this is within the matchmaking system itself. Put me in with a player that's better at the game, a lot more experienced, and maybe has a custom weapon or a custom skin. He's going to own me, and it's going to be inconceivable for me to think that he was that much better than me. So what other differences were there? Oh, yes, he had better guns. Oh, he had this skin. I need to go and purchase myself a loot box. I've got that gun, and I've got that skin. See how this works again? A cynical thought? Perhaps. But now we're going to show you some evidence that EOMM is very much being considered by these developers. Starting with some of the patents that have been submitted by some gaming giants. Here we have one from Activision. The concept is very similar to the one that I've just mentioned. It's all about potentially matching new players with more experienced players who have better guns and skins and stuff, in the hope that the poorer player, the newer player, is going to want to emulate those guys because they look cool, they play well, and buy the items that they are exposed to in that lobby. Now, we can't prove that such systems are actually in use. In fact, Activision have come out and acknowledged the patent exists, but said they haven't implemented the system in any of their titles. There are also another couple of patents in relation to this time by another gaming giant, EA. The first one here is for dynamic difficulty adjustment, which suggests that things are being altered in-game, movement speed, player hitboxes, things like that, to switch the odds in your favor or turn them against you. Obviously, we know that if you're winning, you're more likely to stay engaged, but if you win too often, you can get bored. So it's tilting the odds all the time, changing things in the game without us even realizing. Scary stuff, really. This is an actual excerpt from the white paper. The game retention prediction model may be applied to a user's activity data to determine an indication of the user's expected duration of gameplay. Based on the determined expected duration of gameplay, the difficulty level of the video game may be automatically adjusted. Basically, if it thinks you're going to turn the game off or rage quit as we know it, it can make the game easier for you, so all of a sudden you get that sense of achievement and you want to carry on playing. Second patent, which is also submitted by EA, is all about matchmaking you with other players, not on SBMM, but instead on an algorithm that they've created and aptly named Engagement Optimized Matchmaking. And as the name suggests, the aim and the purpose is to keep you playing online. Let's say you've had 3 losses in a row. We've seen the impact that that can have on a player's likely, decision to quit playing. But they might throw you a bone. They might match you with a player all of a sudden that you're going to stomp all over. So you get that sense of achievement so that you carry on playing. So all of this, EOMM, dynamic difficulty adjustment, etc., could all be happening right under our noses while we're playing, and we are completely oblivious to it. Scary stuff. So if our last 2 videos have taught you anything, it's that there are so many different things that game developers need to consider when coming up with an ideal matchmaking system. We're all different. We all game for different reasons. It's absolutely impossible to please everybody. There are some variables that can be controlled though, such as server variation. You can minimize it. You can guarantee that you always play on a low ping, one of your favorite servers each and every time you play online by using our geo filter. That's one less thing for you to worry about, but also one less excuse if you jump into a game and you get owned. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this video interesting. If you have, be sure to drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our future content. We'll see you in the next one.